Now let's look at the Nazi ideology. The Nazi ideology. Now, ideology, when you say an ideology, it is a system of ideas and principles that form the basis of a political or economic theory. So it's a system of ideas and principles that form the basis. So that is ideology. Now, the Nazism or Nazi, the ideology of the Nazi, it was a mixture of socialist or socialism or fascist or fascism. So what are these? What are these? Or what was it really, the Nazi ideology? So number one, they were anti-Semitism. So the Jews were racially foreign to Europe and were the source of all European troubles. So we are talking of the belief of the Nazi, the ideas of the Nazi. So number one, it was anti-Semitism. Anti-Semitism, it means it was anti-Jewish. They were anti-Jews, and they believed that the Jews were foreign to Europe. They were not the Europeans, they were the Asians. So they were the source of all European troubles. Therefore, they needed to be flushed out of Europe. That was the Nazi ideology number one. Nazi ideology number two, the racial superiority. The Nazi believed that the Aryan race, they were superior in Germany. Hence, they needed the Lebensraum, which is the living space. They needed the living space, the Aryan race. They needed more space to live. Ideology number three, Nazi ideology number three was nationalism. So they believed that Germany had to become strong and glorious nation. So remember, according to Adolf Hitler, he believed that Germany needs to go back to those glorious days, the days of Bismarck, Otto von Bismarck. Ideology number four was militarism. Militarism was Nazi ideology number four. So on this one, the Nazi believed that force or military spirit was the real expression of human nature and survival. So they believed that greatness of a nation could only be achieved through war, and therefore there was need for aggressive foreign policy. So the Nazi also believed in strong militarism. That one should result into aggressive foreign policy to expand their territory. So they believed in militarism to have a strong one. So that's why they believed that force and military spirit was the real expression of human nature and survival. For a human being to survive, according to the Nazi, they needed force and military spirit. Wow. Another ideology, another Nazi ideology was the anti-communism. So Nazism considered Russian communism as a threat to European civilization. To say this communism which started in Russia, it was a threat to the European civilization. Therefore, according to the Nazi, they believed that communism had to be completely destroyed. They had to destroy communism completely. So that was another ideology. Another ideology number six, that is, they believed in totalitarian state. So Nazism or Nazi, it was a totalitarian in nature. What is that? It means they believed to have a total control of all political, economic, and any other relationship. So they believed in that one, to say they had needed to have the ruthless total control. So it was to have ruthless total control. It is just a direct link to militarism there, to say for survival, you need to have a military spirit or force. So with that, they were forcing on political issues, economic issues, and all other or even international relationships. They need to be known that they have total control of everything. Now, let us look at the establishment of Nazi dictatorship. We have seen that the Nazi were totalitarian in nature. They believed in militarism or force, a spirit of military. So now, how did the Nazi establish dictatorship in Germany? Remember, this is now the climax of this topic, because we are looking at the development of autocratic leadership or government in Germany. So now we are at the climax where we look at Nazi and Adolf Hitler. Now they are establishing that dictatorship in Germany. So how did they make it? How did they establish that dictatorship in Germany? So when Adolf Hitler became the leader or the chancellor, the Nazi had only three ministers. It had only 3 ministers out of all. So it means there in the Reichstag, the Nazi did not have the majority. So what did he do? Then he called for elections. Immediately he called for the elections. And why did he do that? For the reason that the Nazi should gain the majority in government, because a chancellor, the head of the government with only 3 cabinet ministers, that was a real threat. It was a danger there. Adolf Hitler sensed the danger that his government again would fall. Now let's look at the Reichstag fire. The Reichstag fire. On 27th February 1933, the Reichstag building, that is the parliament building, it caught fire and it was burnt down. That is in capital city in Berlin. So it caught fire. So what happened was that the Nazi blamed the communist for fire. Remember, we are saying that Adolf Hitler and the Nazi, they hated communism and they wanted to crush it. So in 1933, there was that fire in the parliament building, the Reichstag. Then that fire was blamed on communists. Then Adolf Hitler convinced the president, Hindenburg, to take a strong action against the communism or the communist threats. Then what happened was that Hindenburg, he declared that a state of emergency whereby there was need for immediate action to something else. So Hitler interpreted that fire, the Reichstag fire, as something caused by the communism or the communists. Therefore, it was a threat to the country, to the republic. That's why he convinced the president to say, you have to declare it as a state of emergency whereby we need immediate solution to this problem. So what was the problem? The problem was not the fire, the problem was communism. So the state of emergency was declared against communism. Therefore, with that declaration of the state of emergency, it gave powers to Adolf Hitler. So he was given powers to deal with the communist threats. So remember, this communist threat, it was just created to say they were a threat. So it was declared that Adolf Hitler has to deal with the communism. Then what followed was that all communist leaders were immediately arrested. They were arrested because of that fire, the Reichstag fire. So remember how politics works sometimes. Then in March 1933, there were elections. So during the campaign, the SA, remember the Sturmabteilung or the stormtroopers, they broke out up rival party rallies. We talked about this, and they were beating up the opponents. their opponents, the opponents of the Nazi were being beaten up. So they also suppressed the newspapers and that supported the opponent or the rival parties. So on March 5, 1933, there were elections. So those elections were conducted amid fear and intimidation, while there were a lot of fears and intimidation. That is to say, the Nazi was intimidating all the opponents or the rival parties. But still, what happened was that the Nazi did not get the majority of the 2/3 that was needed for it to pass the laws in the parliament or in the Reichstag. So what happened was the Nazi then, it agreed with the Catholic Center Party in the parliament. So it worked together. We have just mentioned it to say the Catholic Party also gave powers, or it gave support to the Nazi Party. So we see in 1933 elections, the Catholic Party also worked with the Nazi Party. They worked together. So Hitler therefore had the overall majority with the joining of the Catholic Center Party, and it enabled the Nazi to pass the laws without difficulty. So just as it is in the for example, if we talk of the MCP, UTM, or UDF, and maybe the DPP, they are in parliament there. And the ruling party, if the ruling party is MCP, and it has got no majority there, and if it works together with the UDF and MCP, you find that they have the majority and they can easily pass the laws in the parliament there. So that's what happened here with the joining of the Catholic Center Party. Then Hitler and the Nazi Party, they had the majority in the Reichstag. Now we have looked at the at how Nazi and Adolf Hitler gained popularity in Germany. So we have seen how Adolf Hitler, when he became the chancellor, maneuvered and he made the Nazi a popular party. He tried this and that, he tried the elections, he did not get the majority until he convinced the Catholic Party, then he had that majority, then he was popular, he had that popular majority. Now, let's look at how now the Nazi, they have power now. How did they consolidate? How did they establish that power in Germany? How did the Nazi consolidate or establish power in Germany? First, there was the enabling law that was passed in 1933. The enabling law in 1933. So the enabling law, it was passed on 23rd March 1933. And this one, it gave the Nazi full control of Germany. So the Nazi was given full control of Germany. So what does it mean? It also means that Adolf Hitler also had full control of Germany. And the law was passed under heavy presence of troops from the SA and the SS. Remember, the SA, the stormtroopers, and the Schutzstaffel, which acted as the bodyguards of Adolf Hitler. So you can imagine, we are saying that this enabling law, it was presented in the Reichstag, in the parliament. And there in the parliament, when it was given to say, now we have this law which needs to be passed. And what surprised many was that there were heavy armed soldiers surrounding the parliament building to show that they were there to force people, to force members of the parliament there, of the Reichstag, to pass that bill. See, so all communist members were prevented from entering the Reichstag building. So you can see that the army was outside to say, all right, all Communist Party members no more into the parliament, because there is a very, very important bill that is going to be passed today. So you can see that. And again, we are saying that this law, therefore, the enabling law, it gave Hitler the dictatorial powers for the next 4 years. See that? So it was designed by himself, Adolf Hitler, to say, all right, remember when he went out of prison, then he believed that power should be gained in a democratic way. But Hitler was not a democratic person. He was a dictator personally. But then he wanted to gain that dictatorial powers using democratic way to say that this power, this dictatorship, has been given to me by the people. So that's why he designed this law, enabling law, so that the parliament should pass to say, yes, we give all powers to Adolf Hitler as a dictator. So you can see that. So he saw to it that the communist or other parties are going to reject this law. That's why he sent the SA and the SS to guard the entrance of the parliament so that all members of the other party should not enter the parliament as this bill, as this law is going to be passed. And it happened. So when it happened, within 6 months of Adolf Hitler's rule as a dictator, the Weimar Constitution, it was suspended and democracy ended there. So democracy ended when Adolf Hitler received that dictatorial powers. Economic stability. So we are looking at ways how the Nazi and Adolf Hitler consolidated their power, established their power in Germany. So we have looked at the enabling law. Next was the economic stability. So Adolf Hitler, he initiated a series of economic measures that were designed to make Germany great. So what he did was that he appointed German Skat. So this one, he was the Minister of Economy, the Minister of Economic Planning, to plan the economy. So what Skant did was that he entered into trade agreements with the underdeveloped countries. So there, from the underdeveloped countries, Germany was getting the raw materials and they were exchanging it with the manufactured goods. So that was what Skant did. So millions of people were provided with jobs in construction companies, in the construction of schools, hospitals, bridges, and agricultural projects. So much as he was a dictator, but he embarked on developing Germany. So he embarked on constructing different things like schools, hospitals, bridges, and agricultural projects. So there was also the removal of the Jews from the civil service. Remember, Adolf Hitler believed that, yes, the Jews, they have to be flushed out, and they were removed from the civil service. So with that, then, it created thousands of jobs for the unemployed Germans, pure Germans. So in 1933, Hitler again, he embarked on rearmament. And with this one, then he recruited, he built the arms and recruited the soldiers. So he was building the arms, building the war machines and recruiting soldiers. In that way, recruitment of soldiers, it meant that people were getting jobs. People were being employed there. Also, the Nazi established their power through propaganda. So propaganda, when you say propaganda, it is the spread of information. Usually it is a twisted truth that is favorable to the government. So that is propaganda. So the Nazi established their power through propaganda. So usually a propaganda is used to enhance or build good idea of a government, to talk about good things, only talking good things about the government. That one is propaganda. So the Nazi propaganda, it aimed to create a new mind based on Nazi beliefs and values. So according to the Nazi, in order for them to have power, what they did was that they were convincing people, they were creating in the minds of the people that the Nazi is the best. The beliefs of the Nazi and the values of the Nazi were the best. That was the propaganda. So they appointed Joseph Goebbels as the minister of propaganda. He was creating propaganda. And Joseph Goebbels, he used the state radios, the newspapers to influence the people's attitudes towards the Nazi regime. So we are saying that this time around, the enabling law has already given the powers to Adolf Hitler to be a dictator. Now, dictatorship cannot be liked unless otherwise. So at that time, there was need still for the Nazis to do something for them to like dictatorship. So what happened was that all radio programs were controlled, and only those that supported the Nazi were broadcasted. See, they were the radio programs were only broadcasting the things or the Nazi propaganda or the Nazi ideas. So with that, it was sinking into the minds of the people to say, yes, the Nazi is the only thing, the only best thing, or the only best ideas or beliefs and values. So in that propaganda as well, Hitler's speeches were repeated on radios, and the speakers were mounted on in the streets. In the streets, you could only hear Hitler speaking. Now and again, each and every day, you just hear in the streets, they are playing the speeches of Adolf Hitler. So posters were always showing Adolf Hitler as wise and thoughtful leader. So Adolf Hitler was being portrayed as a very wise leader, a very thoughtful leader. So every summer, also what happened was that the Nazi, they had famous huge Nuremberg rallies. They could organize big rallies there to show that the Nazi were the popular. And at the rallies, they were performing the band, they were parading, the marching. And again, there were military flying displays, the aeroplanes flying. And again, it ended with the speeches of Adolf Hitler. So that was designed. It was well designed. And even the books, the works of art and even books, that did not support the Nazi, they were all banned. So it was a design. It was a design by the Nazi to say, yes, we have to impart in the minds of the people that the beliefs and the values of the Nazi are the best. So that was propaganda. Now, having looked at how the Nazi consolidated its power, it's time now to look at the Nazi Germany. Now, the Nazi is in Germany, is ruling Germany. So, what was the governorship? How did the Nazi govern Germany? So we're going to look at from 1933 to 1945, the period of Nazi Germany. So the leadership of the Nazi and Adolf Hitler, it was characterized by a number of issues. So the first one was the persecution of minority groups. Persecution of minority groups. So on this one, in February 1933, homosexual groups, those who were marrying male or female alone, those ones, they were taken or they were sent to concentration camps to say it was made illegal, to say there should be no marrying of women or men alone. And also mentally disturbed people, or those who were mentally disturbed, those people, they were also thought to lead a worthless life. And what happened was that they were killed by starvation or lethal injection. That is, they were injected with some drugs so that they die, or sometimes they were gassed to death. They were sprayed with the gas. They were put together in the room, then spray the gas there so that they die. So that is how Adolf Hitler regarded the life of the miners. So we have talked of the homosexuals. They were sent to concentration camps. All those who were mentally disturbed or the physically challenged or the disabled people, all those people, they are taken to say, these people, they are not productive, they are not going to assist our country, so why should we keep them? Bring them here, inject them with the drugs so that they die, or put them in the room, fire the gas there so that they die in there. And in 1939, Hitler also introduced the euthanasia program. So this program, it is whereby they were making these unwanted people, the unwanted people like the homosexuals, we are talking of the physically challenged, those people, they were just injected so that they die peacefully. So that's when euthanasia was introduced in 1939. And also even the beggars were not allowed during Adolf Hitler's time. They were also dealt with ruthlessly. Also, Adolf Hitler, he created the Hitler Youth Movement. So the youth, they were recruited in this movement, the Hitler Youth Movement. So in this movement, what happened was that the boys, they were trained how to use guns. See? We are talking of Adolf Hitler, he was a military person. So the boys were trained how to use guns and how to read maps. As a soldier, you have to know how to read maps. And they could go on long marches and camps. They could be trained far away from towns. So they were going on long marches. And in 1936, by 1936, membership in this Hitler Youth movement, it was compulsory. All boys, no matter who, they were supposed to join this Hitler Youth movement to be trained. They were trained to use guns, read maps, and going on camps. And on the other side, girls again, they joined. They were also joining that one at the age of 14. They also joined the Hitler Youth movement. And they were also taught how to keep their bodies healthy, how to be clean. Girls, they were trained to be clean. And also how to look after babies, because they were at one point in time expected to have babies. So how to care for babies. So you can imagine a girl at the age of 14, they are trained how to hold a baby, how to take care of a baby, preparing for the future life as a mother. And also on the side of women, the Nazi Party regarded the male and female sexes as different. So the women's law, they were confined to that of a mother or a wife. So the Nazi regarded women as mothers and wives. Apart from that, no. So that's why they were taught to say, for them it is Kinder, Kitsch, and Kuche, meaning children, church, and kitchen. So these were the fields for mothers. Mothers were supposed to be found in the kitchen, in the church, and taking care for children. So women were encouraged to leave their professional jobs and be wives at home. So all those women who were employed sometime, they were encouraged to say, no, leave this work, go back home and take care of children. Take care of children and go to church. So they were encouraged to pursue feminine careers such as nursing and teaching. So the only work that was allowed for women, it was nursing and teaching. Teaching the children. So it was already there, like the children are taking care of the children, not fathers or men taking care of children. And the nursing, they have to take care again for the sick people, for the passive people. So those were the jobs or professions for women. And what also happened was that the Nazi also provided some incentives, some motivation, some gifts to the Germans who had 4 children. They emphasized, they encouraged people to have more children. So those with 8 children, oh, that one, it was really something. They were greatly honored and awarded with the gold cross. They are given a gold cross to say, these are the stars. Really, they are the people who are going to make Germany great. So why did they do that? They did that to counter the falling birth rate, because birth rate was going down. Many people, they did not like to have many children. So the Nazi encouraged people to say, you need to have more and more children. They wanted more children so that their country become great again.
Simutaya nthawi yanu kufunafuna maphunziro muzakhala wotumidwa moyo wanu wonse. Ngati simuphunzira anthu azingokutumani, ajala kalime, ajala kuchwe manyazi, ajala katende yanti, ndipo anthu ophunzira wandu wotumanso kwambiri. Ndiye ngati simuphunzira, skulu akuyikirani apa mukhala otumidwa.